David Sharp,
Yes.
the lead
Take
digital
Take your time.
enablement
What?
strategist.
Why don't you pretend like we don't know what you do?
There you go.
Yeah.
No, it used to be, I used to have the application development team, so it was like business technology enablement.
Okay.
But Jennifer does a really good job of finding what you're uncomfortable with and saying, why don't you do this for a while?
Oh, nice.
So
This is at Save a Lot.
Yep.
Okay.
And so...
Which is a wholesale, a discount grocery wholesaler.
Yep, that's right. We used to have a bunch of retail stores. We sold all of them to retail partners, and so now we're the wholesaler to those retail partners.
So there are no Save a Lot stores.
They're Save-A-Lot stores, but they're
not open to the
corporately owned.
Oh, okay, got
The
it.
retail
Okay.
partner will own one, or our biggest retail partner owns 92 of them.
Okay. So Jennifer
So
is
about a
keeping
year
you on
and
your
a half
toes.
ago, the VP responsible for data retired. And while Jennifer was on vacation, Jason and I, the other VP, got together and said, here's what we're going to do. I'll continue to take app dev. You'll have infrastructure. We have to get a senior director, somebody who knows something about data. And Jennifer came back, and then I went on vacation. And then when I got back from vacation, she said, good news. We're going to have app dev to Jason, and you're going to take data. And I was like,
Okay.
So yeah, but it's a great team. There's a great team there. They do a really good job. And then in the last 6 months, she said, how about you take operations as well? So that is service desk, application support, tier 1, 2 through tier 2. Tier 3 is really the app dev teams. So it is learning a lot of new stuff that I've not had to typically do in my career. Usually it's build, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day before DevOps, it was build, and then you gave it to somebody else.
Plan,
and
build,
you
run.
went and build something else.
Yeah.
And you gave it to somebody else. And I'm now the person that they're giving this stuff to. And you have a totally different perspective.
You're the guy you used to make fun of when you were handing it over the fence.
That's right.
and-
Yeah.
That's right.
Cool.
That's right. And now I pick on the application developers. What are you guys doing? What is this?
Right.
Why are you building such crappy stuff?
Exactly. Yeah.
So how is work generally though? Like these days, today, how's it going?
Well, today's good because it's PI planning, so it's the couple of days that you get to pause. You only get to do it 4 or 5 times a year, and you get to set a plan. You get to hear from your business partners, and it's usually those are the good days, those are the fun days because there are a lot of connections that are happening. Whereas now, for the next 3 months, everybody will be heads down working on that stuff.
So does that happen remotely, or do you do that in person?
Yeah, it's probably 60% in person, 40%
Really?
online.
Were you in person or?
I was in person. Yeah.
Okay, and that's at a third-party location, or you do that at Save a Lot
We do it
headquarters?
at Save a Lot, which
Okay.
is, if you're familiar with Northwest Plaza, and if you're old enough to remember the J.C. Penney at Northwest Plaza.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's they completely redid it. It's a beautiful office, but it is definitely the J.C. Penney at Northwest Plaza.
So PI planning at the J.C. Penney.
Yeah, that's right.
It's half Save a Lot, half like DMV there now, right?
The rest of it is, and it's weird. It's some kind of government thing. I'm not sure it's DMV. I think it's like the courts for like you get to keep your kids
Oh.
type thing. So it's not-
Well, where do you go if you don't want to keep?
Sometimes, like in
Anywhere else.
nicer months, I'll walk around the whole complex, and yeah, when you get over to that parking lot, it is a definitely different vibe.
Oh wow! Yeah, a bunch of people with other things on their minds.
Well, yeah, very important things on our minds.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 60% of the people were there.
Yeah, but that's unusual. So on a normal day when people are working, there's probably 10 of us there out of a department of 100.
Oh wow! Okay.
So that's how many participated in the PI? About 100?
No, 100 is all of IT.
Okay.
So how many participants we had in PI planning? Maybe 30.
Okay.
All of our product owners, a lot of our solution architects, our lead developers, and then a couple of people from leadership.
Yeah.
Business teams will come in and out, so I don't count them because they don't stay all day.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of role do you play in those? It's 2 days.
It really varies. I don't get to do a lot of agile stuff during the execution of sprints because I'm very much focused on operations and data.
Okay.
But during that time, you get to go back to just basic questions about, well, at the end, we had a really good conversation about the difference between capacity and velocity. And so we got a couple of topics listed. Let's take them to the Agile Guild next time we get together. But it's a nice stroll down memory lane where I get to go back. And you just hope that the stuff that you did 4, 6, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like
Getting stuck.
Are they still doing it this way?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun. It's PI planning is I enjoy it. Yeah.
So what is typically in a PI planning event? You're building out, 60-80% of the stories that you're hoping are going to get some attention over the next 5 or 6 iterations.
Correct.
But for an operations team, like I'm put it. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but a highly reactive group.
Oh yeah. So we have probably 5 product teams, which are merchandising, retail, distribution, and then we've got kind of HR, finance as back office teams. We don't have really represent IT. IT's more kind of shared services manager. So you've got security, infrastructure, data, production support, production assurance. And those teams, it took a while because those teams had work that they needed the product teams to do, and it took a little bit to show them you have to create a feature, you have to create a story. These teams work off of that stuff, and if you just send them an email and say, "Hey, I need you to do this," they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So to get them in the mindset of, if I create work in the input and workflow process that they're used to, intake process that they're used to, they'll pick it up and have a conversation with me. So we've cleared that hurdle. But for our production support and production assurance teams, it usually comes down to, there's a little bit in terms of what they're going to do, like we're going to make adjustments to our change management process, but a lot of it is when the product teams do their draft plan review. If there's nothing in there about key problems and incidents that our support teams are seeing, then the question is, what are you going to do about check lane printers? What are you going to do about the milk order optimization system that fails?
So you're more of a customer then in these scenarios.
Of a slightly demanding customer.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. I don't know if I have an example that backs that up, where operations is to come in and say, "Hey, by the way, we've been dealing with these headaches for a long time, and we would like you to turn them into not headaches." That's pretty cool.
Yep. And it's a more formal feedback loop. Like, we'll do that throughout the 3 months. We'll create root cause problem management sessions where we pull the product teams in, and they understandably get very upset, right? Because, hey, I committed to do this sprint, and I now have 3 root cause problem management things because some of my stuff is failing. But I have budget for that. So can we wait? And sometimes the answer is sure, and sometimes the answer is no, we can't wait. We need a better solution for this.
It does seem like it's the solution to that classic plan, build, run, where you're talking about where the people at the end of the chain just get the worst of it and everybody else is on to the next shiny thing. I'm working with a client who their PMO also manages their service desk. It's the same part of the organization. And that was their solution to completing that feedback loop, was they're still project-led, but the people who lead the projects are also responsible for seeing and hearing about all the operations support stuff that comes in. I'd never seen that before, but it was, I think, in the same vein. Yeah, it seems to be.
You mentioned something about, before DevOps, this is the way it looked. Mm-hmm. But now here we are.
Yeah, we haven't pulled off DevOps yet, and that's one where I'm comfortable with agile transformations. I left Mastercard before they were kind of moved to DevOps, so I believe people like, hey, we should do DevOps. Yeah, great. What do you think? Well, I've never done it before, so I'll need somebody to show me how to do that.
Yeah.
But we are getting closer to it. In fact, I think our production support teams are getting more closely aligned to the product teams. Like, sometimes it's just a pool of resources, and whatever comes in, they deal with it. But I think some of our support teams are getting more specialized and say, we support retail, we support distribution. And now that you have some of that start to emerge, it's not that far removed to just push those
beyond the team.
Yeah. I would imagine that's a lot easier to do with a few teams than it is to do with a few hundred teams.
Yeah.
I remember...
appreciate our small scale when it comes to that.
Yeah. I remember one of my Mastercard tours of duty. Mm-hmm. I was asked to facilitate a DevOps conversation. And ignorant me, I thought, this is an educational thing. You're asking me to pull together a group of people to sort of explore. This is 10 years ago. What DevOps is all about, and how could we achieve a state of DevOps bliss. And what I didn't realize was that it was an intervention. It was a scenario where there's a category of people who are all on board. with the idea, mostly the developers, and a group of people in infrastructure who are sort of head in the sand. I have a job to do. I have a way of doing that job. I don't have time to have this conversation about potentially losing my job. That was the other hat. That's what the facilitation of the conversation was all about. It was can you please just listen to what we're trying to suggest here,
Right.
and maybe come up with a way for actually making it happen. I don't know if is that still a thing? Are you still seeing
I found that
resistance?
it's the reverse. It's usually the dev team that is like, we just want to build stuff.
Yeah, we don't care about ops.
And as soon as the ops stuff starts creeping into our space, we just want to build stuff.
Yeah, I got something else to build.
Yeah, and it's going to be a slow transition, right? Because you're a developer and a retail team doesn't mean the next day you're going to be supporting it. It means you just shorten the feedback loop, right? The same people who are doing the support are now on your same team. They're doing support, you're doing build for now.
Yeah.
And you just really, really compress the feedback loop, which is, I think, the biggest part in terms of improving the dev.
Yeah.
But you got to make room for it, right? Because if the dev teams are 100% committed for every single sprint, it doesn't matter what you tell me, I can't do it. I don't have time for it.
So are you doing that anywhere yet where we're actually either next to each other or actually on the same team, both dev and ops?
Yeah, not yet. Not yet. I think that will be the next step. What we've done is try to convince the product teams during PI planning and sprint planning is to save, and it's funny because as soon as you have the conversation, right, reserve some portion of your capacity for keep the lights on, stuff that is unplanned that you're not sure, what it's going to be. And to watch our maturation over the last year and a half, because initially it was, what percentage should I set aside? Well, I don't know. In a normal time period, how much do you have to drop dev to do support?
Yeah.
And some teams will be 50-50, some teams will be 80-20, some teams will be 90-10. And it could vary by PI and vary by sprint. It just, it's all a matter of when things break and how long it takes us to fix them. So we've gone from that in terms of tell me a very specific, should I be reserving 27.5% of my capacity for keep the lights on production support stuff. So I think we've gotten past that to say, listen, and the other thing we would do is teams would conflate operational health with keeping the lights on. So if you've got to upgrade some servers from 2008 to 2012, my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. I have to edit that part out. From an old version to a new version, they're like, that's keep the lights on. No, it's not. It's operational health work that you can
mowing the lawn.
define, and you can size it, and you can point it, and you can make room for it.
Yeah.
The stuff that we want you to reserve is the unknown. And if everything goes great, guess what? You get to put some more stories into the unknown part. Mm-hmm. And if everything blows up, then now you've at least got some time where you're not going to miss every single commitment you've made during that sprint of that PI.
Tell me about the the biggest differences in your leadership or management style between managing a operations team versus managing a development team. Like, how do you have to behave differently?
That is a really good question. Because I was a programmer initially, there's always some part of you when you're leading at dev teams who thinks, I can show you how to do this. Like, if you got sick, I could do this, right? If push came to shove. When it comes to data and operations, having never done it before, you have to very much rely on the experience and expertise of your team. So that is still a struggle for me. I think we're doing an okay job of it, but to be in a situation and get asked a very specific pointed technical question and you have to turn to James and say, James, what's the answer to that question?
I'm not the one to ask.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
That's hard because you're used to having some semblance of an answer, right? It could be off, but you're usually directionally correct. And having responsibility for teams where you've not done that before, it's a lot of reliance on their experience and expertise. And the good news is I'd say a lot that both of those teams have, in some cases, decades of that experience and expertise at that company.
Well, I would think it would force you to stay out of the weeds too, because you literally can't get into them. So it prevents you from micromanagement or rolling your sleeves in or whatever. Well,
still try.
It's the spirit that counts. But like, if you don't have the tool set to be able to reach in over the shoulders and do it on their behalf, then that keeps you in that leadership position versus management position.
That's right.
I remember when I became a manager for the first time. I was a manager for a development team that was working on a software product that I had largely built myself. And then, the team grew around it. So I was managing the thing that, so I knew the technology, I knew the code base, I was managing based on that knowledge and expertise. And I remember, it was still the same type of people. I remember really struggling the first time I took a management role over a team. It was just a Java team. I had never developed in Java before. And I'm like, I felt like a fish out of water. And I think back on that, and I think, man, how unprepared was I? How wrong was I for that role if I couldn't make that shift from one tech stack to the other? Because it meant that the only power that I had, the only ability or tool that I could wield was my knowledge of the actual code base.
I was such a fish out of water, I started looking for other jobs. I felt that kind of incompetent to do it.
Yeah.
But you have a leader who has faith and confidence and is courageous for you, and puts you in those roles.
Yeah.
And says, it's okay.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. You always do. And it's a lot of pressure. And sometimes you want to go back to a comfort zone of let me just do something I feel like I'm good at.
Yeah, that's interesting. Anything else? Any other aspect of so? What have you noticed is the biggest difference between if we're gonna reduce people down to types, the type of person that you led in the past to the type of person that you're dealing with now?
Yeah, the other thing is you start to lead. While there's very much still technical people on the team, you're also leading leaders, right? And so now you're leading directors and managers as opposed to sometimes the team members doing the work. And that's apparent in some cases, but then in other cases they feel all the same. Like when you're having one-on-ones with a director versus a manager versus a production support person that is answering help desk calls. At the end of the day, they're humans, right? They're usually married, they have kids, they have pets, they have sports that they're shuttling children to and from. And so to be able to connect with them on that level and have those kind of conversations. But it is interesting that the problems, like when you ask about pain points, the things that they bring to you they're vastly different, right? Some of them are very easy to solve and others they're strategy questions, and it's going to take some minutes to figure that out.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So on the one hand, it's how long am I supposed to be on the call with this person, and then on the other hand, it's a budgetary question, or it's should we even be selling this product?
Yep. And to this is sometimes very black and white. Like if we have a training budget, I won't mention the specific dollar amount, but if there's
it's $1 billion,
if there's a dollar amount, and it's a per person dollar amount. Sometimes people will put blinders on, and at different levels of the organization, the blinders can sometimes get more narrow, right? And to get people to open up, and there's some variance of gray, right? So if you've got a training budget and you multiply that times 100 people in the department, you get to a number.
Yeah.
And we can only do this much per person. Well, no, we can't do that much per, right? There's people who've been in their role for 25 years, and they're not going to do any training, right? They're very happy with what they're doing. The skill set that they're on is not, there's no conferences for them to go to. It is what it is.
Yeah. And
so now for that person, you got their budgets. Now you've got double what that number is, right? And then, so how am I supposed to know? What is the number? And the number is, I don't know. We'll figure the number out as we go. This is the budget, and if we exceed that budget in July, then we're done. We're done for the year. And the good news is we'll be able to say next year that we ran out in July, so we need to increase that number a little bit. So getting people to think about it doesn't have to be black or white.
Yeah.
This very specific thing.
It's about your scope of vision is about this far versus look at all of the opportunities that are out here.
Yep.
The ability to get people to think a little bit more creatively.
Yeah, that is, and to get myself to think sometimes more creatively, right? That you get into these data and operations roles, and sometimes things are very black and white. So to be able to still be creative and be innovative, because when you're building applications, sky's the limit, right? You do whatever you want. When it comes to operations, you write scripts and knowledge articles for people on phones to follow. So the rule there. How do you do creativity and innovation while also having rules on an L1 support team where the rule is don't guess, right?
Yeah.
If you think this might, they don't know. You talk to somebody else. Because you got somebody on the other end of that phone. If you tell them to do the wrong thing, you just made it worse.
Yeah.
Was there a moment, or was it just gradual, where you felt the imposter syndrome start to slip off? Where you're like, oh, okay, maybe
Yeah. I get how this horse rides.
I think I'm getting this.
Yes. And then the horse bucks you off.
Okay, how many of those moments have there been, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, what is it, the you get excited and then there's the trough of disillusionment and then you kind of go up. So
Yeah.
I think it comes in waves,
Okay.
which is nice because as soon as you get comfortable doing something you thought was uncomfortable, usually something uncomfortable is right around the corner.
Yeah, I was just reading this. I'll go ahead and admit it. I admit it. It was like a thing of the day calendar where it had like the cute little thought of the day. But it was good. It was a good one. It was like
Did somebody give you that as like a Christmas gift here in the office?
yes.
No, he
as a
buys
matter of fact, yeah. And
He
it's on
buys
our. It's I
He
I
buys
would. I didn't buy this one, but I would.
Did you do something?
No, somebody else. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate it so much that I put it on our coffee maker. I'm going to get this wrong, but it's about looking bad. It was like there are 3 steps to growing, and step 1 is realizing that you can't do something. Step 2 is realizing that you're actually bad at it, and then step 3 is going through the effort of getting better at it. And then step 2 is the step where most people are like, peace out.
Yep. Yeah. That's easy to do. There was another one, and I forget who said it, but it was, you get a new assignment, you're like, this is going to be awesome. And then you get into it, and you're like, this is hard. And then the next step, this sucks. And then the next step, I'm never going to be good at this. And then you crack it. And then the last step is, this is awesome.
Yeah, right. Okay, I have another question for you, but I'm just going to warn you. I'm going to make a cocktail while I'm asking you.
Okay.
I'm going to name this cocktail the Clydesdale. I don't know if there's already. Is there a cocktail named Clydesdale
Can we
already?
name it the Clyde's Dave?
Okay. Yes, we can.
I'm in.
Yes, the Clyde's Dave, and it's going to be.
Well, who's Dale? Do you have
Well, it's opening. It's the home opener for the Cardinals today.
Oh, okay.
But that's perfect.
Did
It's
they
the
bring the
home
Clydes?
opener, and you just told me you prefer Dave. It sounds like
Well,
I got the answer that I was looking for. The
When
Clyde's
there's
Dave.
when there's a Clyde in the room, I prefer Dave. Yeah, Clyde.
Clyde and yeah.
That's
Okay.
right.
I
All
went
right.
to the Clyde one time.
But if there's a Bonnie in the room, you prefer David.
That's also true.
You follow?
Do you know anybody who has the name Clyde? Still?
I worked with a great Clyde. He was just absolutely phenomenal.
Is he still alive?
New Jersey. Yeah. As far as I know.
I mean, we're assuming that he's at least 125 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Definitely not that old.
Okay. We're moving into a new
Sorry,
segment
Clyde.
here. I'm going to postpone my other question, but since we're on the topic, this is the segment of the show where we inspect how young James is. All
Okay,
right?
let's do it.
Yeah, James.
This is and it's based on projection out of how he feels about.
You can just follow my lead here. Does the name Joe Piscopo mean anything to
No.
you? Okay.
Spuds McKenzie.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it a sports
Right,
thing?
yeah. No, it's not.
Because it could be a
no.
common. It could be a modern day sports thing.
Yeah. Right. Have you ever seen Do the Right Thing?
No.
Okay.
Spike Lee.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about Spike Lee.
He's a filmmaker.
Okay. He's made movies such as.
Nope.
Does the expression "gotta be the shoes" mean anything to you?
No.
Okay.
Nope was a different director.
Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
See. Okay. There you go.
Is it Malcolm X? Did Spike Lee?
Mhm.
Was there?
Did Spike Lee do Malcolm X?
Absolutely.
Hey.
Oh.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's validation. Okay.
Was that fun? Yeah. You got more?
That is
Let's keep going. This is fascinating to me.
They're older than that, so they're definitely not going to work. Like Bob Uecker, you don't know Bob Uecker.
Oh yeah. Does the expression "I must be in the front row" mean anything to you?
Yeah.
No.
Tastes great, less filling.
I've heard it. I don't know what it's about.
I wanted a Bud Light.
No.
Okay.
I grew up on the East Coast. I don't know if
Nope.
different references up there.
These were national brands.
Tastes great, less less filling. I've definitely heard before. I don't know.
Yeah, but you understand that
Is that
it
like
comes to blows.
Yep.
Okay. That's cool. No, that's fine. What about Schmidt's Gay?
New Girl.
Oh my God! Now I feel like we have to educate. Before it was just like a diagnostic. Now it's like, wait, you've
That
never
was
heard of
really
Schmidt's
good,
Gay?
Schmidt's Gay. Well, there's Schitt's Creek.
No, this is completely different.
Okay.
And now my cocktail making is done.
Who's Schmidt?
It's an SNL commercial. parody.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't know Jack Schmidt.
The New Deal, that was a good guess.
Thanks.
You used some context.
Really?
It was wrong, but that was a good guess.
Why? Why is that a good guess?
There's a character named Schmidt on the show.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah,
And
I don't feel like
telling him
a lot of people questioned it over time on the show because he had some tendencies.
Is this the French girl? Is in the?
Zoe
Yes.
Deschanel.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Don't
Okay.
think she's French. Just a fake name,
It's fake.
probably.
Okay.
Like her bangs.
I feel like
Her bangs, I feel like they're very much real.
I feel like they're
Just
very
just
real. Like that was
choice.
yeah.
She's a fake person.
Oh.
No hate to her.
I mean, you were the one who chose to guess the new girl. Is that what it is? The new girl.
It is a good show. It's
Okay. That doesn't.
just new girl.
New
There's
girl.
no the.
I feel like it doesn't necessarily age you. That was where your guess took you, but it does identify you a little bit. Thank you.
It's a good show.
Is it?
It is a
My
good
kids
show.
like it.
Coming.
Jake Johnson.
Great.
Jake.
Now, yeah, he sings about banana pancakes.
No.
That's Nick.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah.
See, you're trying to other me, but he's here with me,
Hey,
so it's not going to work.
My wife is 7 than me, and my kids are 24 and 21. So you must be much closer
Wow.
to that.
I'm somewhere in between those two. Yeah.
You are not between 24 and 21.
No, between his wife, who's 7 years older than him, and
Okay.
his kids.
7
All
years
right.
younger. In case she ever watches this.
Okay.
Younger. 7 years younger.
Love-
Wait, who is 7 years younger?
My wife.
Then
Me.
okay,
Yeah.
you said 7. You
I?
did say.
Oh my gosh.
Oh. Just kidding.
All right, but we're going to edit the part about the 7 years younger out, and that's who you're going to be.
Oh, it's just going to be stuff.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, the biggest challenge that you're dealing with right now.
At work?
Yeah.
We don't have to take it there, but maybe start with work.
The biggest challenge at work is just, our eyes are bigger than our stomach. We have, big aspirations. What we do on a daily basis is, just try to run a successful business. I'm going through. We did a data strategy analysis. I don't know, a year ago, and there was a bunch of findings and recommendations from the company that helped us with this. And Jennifer said, "Hey, in our one-on-one tomorrow, can we go through just what we've covered in the last year?" And I'm having to go through, and some of them we've done, and others it's just, and I haven't written it yet, but my thought is it requires a level of investment that we're just not ready or willing to make. So to be able to want to do things and to know also there's a bunch of people, Jennifer, Jason, myself have come from other companies where those investments sometimes are more readily made, right?
Yeah.
And so to know what great looks like and to just, to do your best in the meantime that's a personal struggle and challenge for me because you want to get it, like if you took every positive characteristic of every job or every company you've been at and rolled them all together, right? It's impossible.
Yeah.
Because none of the companies that you're at did all of those things well.
Yeah.
But you aggregate it and you roll it together. Now I want to do all of them to that level. And I personally feel a little sense of defeat every time you lower the bar.
Yeah.
Because this is raise the bar.
Yeah. Clever.
Call back there.
In the olden days, IT was viewed very much as just a cost center. And
Yeah, it was accounting.
Somewhere along the line, people started to move towards it's a competitive advantage, it's a business advantage, somewhere like where do you fall at the time?
Yeah, I think we're definitely, it's probably close to 50-50, but if I had to pick one or the other, I think we are more of a supporter and enabler than we are a cost center. There's certainly some things that we do. You look at infrastructure, networking, some of those. I think people always look at those as, they're an expense. But, you do get to walk around a massive distribution center and pick things from various slots with a wireless headset that tells you, where you're at and what the quantity is, right? So it's not, it's not nothing. It does help you do your job. But I think from network infrastructure security, those are kind of looked at as table stakes, right? We have
Sure.
Yeah.
But for the rest of it, I think we do a really good job of enabling solutions. Even, our data team in terms of driving insights. It's good to have data. That's probably the second challenge is really getting to data-driven decisions. I was talking to somebody just last night, in fact. If you've ever been at a blackjack table, and like they've got a 6 and the dealer's got a 7, and they're like, I'm going to stay. And you're like, what are you doing? You got to take a card. It's like, no, I feel it. I'm good. We sometimes make a lot of gut decisions. We've got a lot of data in front of us that tells us that leads us in directions. And sometimes we just choose to do something different. Dealer's got a 7 show and you got 2 10s. I'm going to split them. But what is the is it a back? There's a line from a song. Things are going to change. I can feel it. And so we do that, and it just doesn't work out. And so you get a little frustrated, saying, well, if we just followed the path, the breadcrumbs that the data is leading us in, we'd be a little bit better off.
Well, it's interesting because you're talking about the data on the front end, but there are plenty of companies that even on the back end don't bother to find out whether or not it worked out. They made the decision, and if you followed the decision, that's enough to say, no, it was good. It was a good thing that we did because you did what I said.
That's right. Yep. And I think that closing that loop, and this is at other companies, the way you would prioritize things is sometimes based on revenue generation, right? So somebody submits a business case. I won't say the name, but just based on the number, you may deduce. This is going to generate $500 million in revenue.
Tesla.
Cool. Let's move that to the top of the list.
Yeah.
And then you start working on it, and you take it to market, and now that person's got a different job. And what did it? Did it generate $50 million in revenue?
Yeah. Exactly.
Nobody ever goes back.
Right.
To look at it.
Well, it's interesting you use gambling as the metaphor, because I feel like a lot of people consciously or subconsciously choose to go with their gut over the data because they want the rush. If they get it right, it feels really good.
That's right.
And if they get it wrong, that's when we don't want to notice that.
And it's almost, if you're feeling it, if I'm I got the 6 showing, but I'm feeling I need to take a card.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact that the next card that shows up is like
that's actually
an 8,
worse, right? When you got a 6 and the dealer's got a 6, you stay. You've got 16, they got a 6, you stay.
Yeah.
But they hit, then you get a 5.
Yeah.
And I told you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is an anomaly.
But the thing is, but the person who hit because they felt it, their response is, but that was what my feeling told me to do. So that's what must have that was supposed to happen. I'm just going to get it on the next one. I'll see how I feel on the next one.
Yep.
So how do we get, the challenge is going to be, how do we get you from the feeling, like the answer is within me, as opposed to, okay. Have you ever heard of Homo Deus, the book?
Yeah.
Fascinating book. And there's this whole unit where I'll summarize. He talks about the history of the species. Where when we were 250, how many years ago? How old is the species?
6,000 years.
6,000 years ago. The Homo sapiens.
I thought I'd get something. Yeah.
Are you making that up?
Yeah.
Well, it's in the book that we're reading. It's in What's Our Problem?
Oh, okay.
Remember 1,000 pages? How many pages is the book?
Yeah, well, society, 6,000 years old. Yeah.
Society is 6,000. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the species is older.
I feel like it's older, yeah.
We're really going to have to condense this one down. Anyway, when the species was, when they decide, hey, let's be a species, they were like, we are no more special than any other animal on the planet. Mm-hmm. And this planet is no more special than any other orbiting or floating rock in the universe. It was like a cosmic orientation. Like, we're just one of a bazillion, nothing special here. The stars will tell us what to do. But then somehow we decided to become special. We decided we were the special species. Mm-hmm. There's something about humans that are, and it's the decision-making process. Of course we're going to go there. But there must be some higher power.
Made in the image of God, that's what makes it special.
Yeah, right, yes. We were made in the image of some higher power. So we moved into, it wasn't the cosmos, it's it's theology that gets us there. And then we moved into, no, it's about the human being. So we look to ourselves. It's us. We have the answers. Mm-hmm. The individual has the answer. But we are moving, because of this thing, we are moving toward the answers are in the data. The answers are not in the cosmos. The answers are not in the gods. The answers are not in within the, in the self. The answers are in the data.
Yeah.
It's going to be a generational thing.
It is going to be interesting because in some cases that's true. And in other cases, you can change your behavior enough that you change the data. And now what you're making decisions off of isn't as concrete as you thought.
So my team's really consistent, and our velocity is 50 story points every sprint, no matter what. And then we lose 3 team members and gain 2 different ones.
Yeah, I think some of that you could probably plan for by saying, hey, we know we have new team members, so things are probably going to be a little bit different. What is a good example of you just change your behavior so it changes everything about the data? If you look at like Amazon Go, I think they just announced today that they're ripping the you just walk out technology.
They're
taking it out.
You know why they're doing that?
I'm assuming because it either doesn't work or...
So they said it was a combination of machine learning, AI, a whole bunch of other stuff. They just had basically a call center of 1,000 people watching through cameras.
No.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't actually automate it.
They had RFIDs.
And their accuracy was so low that it wasn't worth it.
The accuracy. So we did it at a company in O'Fallon. And when we built the store in kind of the main lobby, there was the cameras we used were the Microsoft Kinect cameras, Microsoft Xbox Kinect cameras.
Oh, okay.
That was the technology of the day.
I remember those.
And we'd go in there and test it all the time. And the problem was if two people are standing very close to each other, I'd get stuff that was in their cart, and they wouldn't get charged for it, right? So they'd walk out and they'd be like, "I have 7 things, I can pay for 5," and I walk out.
Sounds like a split check at a restaurant.
Yeah, it was not good. So we struggled to get it to work. So when Amazon says, "Hey, we're pulling it,"
wow.
But what was interesting was they're going to continue to sell the technology to other retailers that want to use it. Like, we're not going to use it, but we'll sell it to you if you want to. And it sounds like they've replaced it with smart shopping carts, which I think is an even better idea, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how you wire up the shopping cart, but as soon as you put something in there, because of the UPCs, it will tell you, like, there's a readout on the cart that tells you, here's how much money is in your cart.
There's like lasers going in all directions, like a Catherine Zeta-Jones movie.
Yeah. So, as an example like
do you know who that is?
Yes.
Okay.
Catherine Zeta-Jones? Who's Catherine Zeta-Jones?
She was in The Mark and the Mask of Zorro.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. That tracks.
Okay.
Good.
Is that one of your dad's
for the
favorite
validation? I remember when Grandpappy and
All
I
right.
watched that.
Hey, listen. We have to continue this discussion, but after a word from our sponsors.
It's no secret that not all software developers are created equal. Sure, many can produce line after line of code, but Sketch's engineers are dedicated to achieving the outcomes that you're after in a manner that's both reliable and resilient. We aren't just task-taking coders. We are teams of feedback-obsessed solution crafters dedicated to discovering and building the best possible product. We don't lock you in with a fixed spec, and we won't penalize you for every pivot you'd like to make, because we know you can't possibly have all your best ideas at the start. Sketch delivers iteratively because continuous feedback and changing priorities are the key to building a great product. Skeptical? Give us a call to find out what a full-stack development team truly means. We're excited to help bring your vision to life.
But anyway, we were talking about changing behavior.
Yeah.
Back to the Amazon example.
That's right.
If units per transaction are something you look at as this is a big deal, and then you completely change the format of the store, and people are walking out with 2 or 3 things or 5 or 7 things, like it's just not how people shop anymore, right? So I'm trying to make decisions based off of old school stuff. A lot of things we do, we look at like year over year. How are we comparing to last year? What's it matter? Last year was massive inflation. The year before that was COVID. Set a target. How are you performing against the target? So sometimes the data, depending on what data you use, can be very misleading.
So is this, you mentioned like your area of responsibility includes production support and data.
Yep, data and operations.
But data, that can mean a million different things.
Yep.
So your example that you just gave is basically sort of stewardship over how to properly think about the information that the data is giving you.
Yeah, it's typically what insights and decisions can we drive based on the data that we have. And so it's very much analytical. There's a whole other side of operational data and what are the best databases to store it in, how do you transport data to partners. But for more of the analytical stuff, it is what we know about the data, how do we aggregate it with other things so that we can change some of the things we're doing in the business.
So where does your area of responsibility end? Are you also responsible for the insights that you gather and the decisions that are eventually made from the data that's...
Insights, yes. Driving decisions, you try not to tie too much of your sense of self-worth to that, because sometimes they can make a decision based off the data. Sometimes they hit on a 20, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But it typically ends with some of the and it's interesting since I'm responsible for operations, it is the operational aspects of the data that I'm not responsible for, right? So the database servers and things that it sits on, that's the infrastructure team. They will manage that. But it is hard because, you know, people hear the word data and they think, well, that's David, that's Adam, that's Barrett, and you're like, well, no, it's what you're talking about is a database. And so it's hard to sometimes educate people because there's data lakes, data warehouse, database. I don't know. It's all the same stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's not all the same stuff.
So what is the difference between a data warehouse and a data lake?
So typically, the warehouse is similar to a distribution warehouse. You've got it defined, the square footage is laid out. You've got slots. This is where the lotion's going to go. This is where the oatmeal's going to go. And you've built all that out, and it's easy to get to. You can navigate, you can pull things together that, the ketchup is next to the mustard, next to the pickles, the diapers are on another side.
You have really thought out this analogy. This is great.
And so that's the data warehouse. It's defined, it's structured.
Yeah.
Your data lake is more, you're just ingesting a bunch of things, and you're like, it's a bit of the loading dock, right?
Yeah.
It's there. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it yet.
It's just
I'm not
a
even sure if it
messy,
goes in
unstructured pile of possible information.
Yep. But, very powerful. Because as soon as you start to structure things and define this is what I'm going to use them for, you can misdefine things, right? You can, and think about this in your lives. Is if you go through your expenses, on your credit card, debit card, whatever, and you start to categorize them, and then you think, well, my gym membership, what is that? Is that personal health? What do I?
Or is that dues?
Right. And as soon as you put it in one, that's the one it's in. And so now if you want to make decisions based off of the categories, it's stuck by whatever you stuck in that, put in those categories.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it's like the Apple Store. That decision to put Apple devices in a retail location in a mall was made by the marketing department. Is that a marketing expense or is that a real estate expense? Yeah, wow. And then based on where you put that information, drives massive subsequent consequences.
Yep. Apps and movies are another one, right? If you want to, I want to watch a scary movie, you go to the horror genre, right? But there's horror, there's suspense, there's gore or whatever it is, right? But I'm stuck in horror, right? So a movie that might be scary to me isn't in this genre, it's some other adjacent genre, and I'm not even going to see it. It won't even pop up as a recommendation. Yeah. So sometimes you don't want it. Sometimes you just go to the search bar and type in scary movie, right? And then it brings back, any manner of
comedies.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Well, we could bring back the actual scary movie, which
right,
is not that scary, right? Yeah.
My next question comes in two parts. First, are you using AI? And also, what is AI?
Yeah, well, AI is an easy one. Allen Iverson. His name number.
Do you know who Allen Iverson is?
Nope.
Oh my God. Allen Iverson is the answer.
Okay.
Anyway, are we using AI? We are doing a little bit of machine learning and data science, which, artificial intelligence is how long and deep do you want to train those models to do a specific function? So we've got some of that we do today for stores, health of stores, right? If we do some predictions based on stores' performance in terms of what stores we think might close, which is kind of a sad function to do.
Right.
But
it has a happy ending.
Well, I mean, sometimes the happy ending is, hey, this store closed and it was on a report as we thought it was going to close, so I guess our stuff is working.
Yeah, I guess it depends upon who the protagonist is in the story.
Yeah, but one of the things that you'd like to do, and again, you go based on gut. So I'm going to try to obfuscate some of these functions so that people at work don't get mad at me. You have people who are responsible for buying items, right? Okay. These are the items we're going to put in our distribution center, and those are the items that the stores are going to order. And you can do all that based off of data. And sometimes people do it based off of gut, right? I can't give the specific example because people will get upset. But if you've got a persona of your customer, and it'd be like a Mercedes dealership next to a Chevy dealership, right? Those two people are not, the people don't go from the Chevy dealership to the Mercedes dealership or vice versa. It's two different kinds of segments. So to have in a Save-A-Lot location and say Mercedes kind of an item, like why would you do that? Why would you put that there? They're not going to buy the Chevy version of the item, let alone the Mercedes version of the item.
Yeah.
But you get enough examples of that, of people making out of those gut decisions. And so what you want to do is you want to take the data, just regardless of what we buy, what are we selling? And you look at the stuff that we're selling, and you can start to build some things off of that in terms of seasonality. When should we buy it? What should we buy? When should we buy it? And how much should we pay for it? Are all things that I think the data can tell us. Now, if you train that, you can do that on reporting, and you can give it to the persons who are responsible for that, and they can choose to use it or not use it. You can take that so far as a train a model to do that it's not only generating the output, it's generating the orders, right? So now this person isn't ordering anything anymore. The machine is ordering. And there's an argument to say that the machine is better and more accurate at doing that than a human.
So this is surprising to me. The eloquence and the level of, I don't know what the noun version of the word articulate is. Articulateness?
Articulation?
Clear?
I don't know. You put a lot of thought into this. You've educated yourself.
Yeah.
These are long range. You call it data, but I mean decision science or that's a long range orientation.
Yep.
But you're also dealing with help desk calls,
Mm-hmm.
so that's like whiplash.
It is.
How do you deal with that?
You do the best you can.
Is it like every other week thing?
You got to get good at changing speeds. It is strategy, it is near-term planning, and it is day-to-day execution. And to be able to know, situationally what environment I'm in, so that we can, and not just me, but the rest of the team can think accordingly. That can be a challenge.
So this focus on how the data can impact decision making or can influence the way we perceive reality. Is this something that your interest in this came about because Jennifer said, this is your responsibility now? Or is this like, finally, now I can pay attention to what's interesting to me?
Yeah, that's a really good question. If she didn't give me a change in responsibilities, twice over the last 18 months, we'd probably be having a very different conversation, right? I'd be complaining about how operations doesn't let me build the stuff I want to build from an app dev perspective. So I don't know that it was an area that I was, or I want to get to the bottom of this. It's once somebody gives you something and says, here's your responsibility, it's number one, I just got to keep my head above water. I just got to know enough about this stuff not to sound like an idiot. And then you go from there, and then you get to work with those people who have the experience and expertise, some of which is very operational, some of which is very strategic. And you start to identify opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise thought of. And so I'm also sharing a lot of these ideas as if they're my ideas. These are ideas, like these are team ideas, right?
Great, but you decided, you're clearly a learner when it comes to this space. So which individuals or what resources would you credit for getting you to the point where you can talk data at this level of specificity?
Yeah, data and operations, I think, is just both experience. When I took operations, I would join every managed incident call that we had. And the VP who was previously responsible for operations said, what are you doing? I was like, how else am I supposed to figure out what's going on?
Yeah. And
sometimes the feedback was you're making the people nervous, right? Just you being on the call makes them act differently than they would otherwise act.
Yeah.
I gotta hear.
Isn't that the whole point about you behaving differently affects the data?
Yeah, that's another good example. Yeah. So you get into it, and I would ask the team for feedback. I would say, listen, if I'm on a call, if I'm saying something on a call, and let's be honest, when I'm on a managed incident call, my role is usually comic relief, right? Like, I'm not helping to solve the problem in the store. I'm getting people who are in a high stress situation to get a little less stress.
At 11 o'clock on a Saturday night when they've got better things to do. Yeah.
You're like Jar Jar Binks.
You know who Jar Jar Binks is?
Yeah, I was trying to backwards date myself.
All right. That's fantastic. Okay. No, I appreciate the effort.
Sound like Jar Jar Binks?
He was comic relief.
Oh,
very stressful situation.
Yeah, but you realize how much of an insult that is, right?
I was trying to think of something else. Yeah. That's what
All right.
Okay.
I was trying to think of the oldest version of comic relief I could come up with, and
I'm gonna start calling him James Binks.
That's it. That's why haven't we this whole
I
time?
told you it would show up. The right name would appear.
Jar Jar Nips.
Much like the one.
You like that? We're gonna end with a new segment that we invented a minute before you walked in the door that we call impromptu reactions to preposterous ideas.
Okay.
So
I can't wait.
yeah, and the reason that we just came up with it is because James started riffing on some ideas that he's got for organizational revolution.
Yep.
That have no place in reality.
Boy, I don't want to give them all away on the first episode, but here we go. They'll escalate.
And we just want you to imagine them at your workplace and see and just give us a reaction. How are they going to go?
And you say, hey, I got an idea.
You get a memo from HR tomorrow. This is now live.
Oh, it's a decision. We're doing this.
Yeah,
we are doing
this new policy instituted.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I can't wait.
All right, first one. January 1 every year, we automatically delete all recurring meeting invites from Outlook.
Yeah, sure. I mean, most of my meeting invites expire after 12 months anyway.
Fantastic. Idea number 2, or memo number 2. We are now going to install tasers in the chair of every single conference room that will gradually start to warm up as you get closer to the end of the meeting, helping people remember leave the conference room when the booking is up.
You might
just a couple gentle pulses.
You might be
the
crossing
10-minute
the line.
mark.
But that doesn't sound like a taser.
Well, it turns into just like a little.
Have you ever been tased?
Yeah.
You have been tased?
Right.
How have we not talked about that yet?
Yeah.
So you've got a natural immunity.
Can we talk about this?
Well, no, you don't want to go through it again. It's a very, you think.
Was it like a casual thing? Was it like at a party, people are getting tased in the room upstairs?
Don't you get tased regularly? Something like that?
Yeah,
I would no.
Okay.
Regularly.
Something like that.
Something.
But I'm usually sedated.
Okay. All right.
Always sedated.
Okay. So
you get sedated and then tased.
Yes. I have a heart condition. Only way to solve it is a taser.
You're like Iron Man.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for completely unrelated reasons.
Okay. So I don't know if I'd tase people. I might do something where you got adjustable chairs and the chairs just start to slowly let go.
Way better.
Okay.
What about a water gun?
I'll be honest. I came up with this idea pre-COVID when
tasing was socially acceptable.
When everyone was hovering at the door to the meeting room, was like, "Hey, we've got it booked at 10 for our stand-up."
What if it was like a
4?
Yeah.
Get out.
What if we just called back from vaudeville? Remember the cane? You don't remember, obviously. I don't either.
I'm aware of it though.
Yeah, but there was a cane. It would pull people out. Yeah. It was just a hand.
Everyone has
that
to
just
be the
extended, and it would just like slowly just like push the.
But everyone needs to be at the same height then.
No,
I mean,
what you could do is you get a walls and table.
Yep.
The chairs would be a problem. Maybe the chairs go into the floor, but if you could turn the table vertically and then do the Star Wars trash
compactor.
How do you know Star Wars trash compactor?
I guess I could have called you C-3PO. Like I that would have been nicer than Jar Jar. Would it? Would that be nicer?
I like that. I appreciate that.
I actually prefer Jar Jar because he's a Sith Lord.
Wait, over
I
who?
was giving you a compliment. You didn't even realize it. Jar Jar was a Sith Lord.
Is that like fan fiction or is that?
That's fan fiction.
It's a conspiracy. I don't know.
It's a conspiracy, right? Yes. You can't just say things like that when they're not documented in.
George Lucas hasn't disagreed with it, so.
Has he agreed? Has he come out and said, "Yeah, you're right. You got me"?
Probably not.
Yeah.
He won't respond to my tweets anymore.
I don't know about tasers. I do like the idea of getting people out of meeting rooms, and I think the situation's worse remotely because people are just in Teams meetings.
Just ongoing.
What is the Teams meeting, Zoom meeting version of that?
Taser installed in your home chair.
I think Teams knows when the meeting ends. It's scheduled, right? So Teams should just drop it off.
Shut it off.
Yeah.
It does that when you close a breakout room. It'll be like, you're leaving this breakout room in 6
I feel like we could build I don't know about a Teams plugin. I bet we could build a Zoom plugin that slowly, maybe like, I don't know, it'd have to be like a minute or two before the meeting is scheduled to end. That's like
Starts
facial
compressing the
recognition
video.
slowly starts drawing, like the
Okay.
mustache.
Clown faces.
Yes, right, yeah, pirate cap.
Okay, idea number 3.
Okay,
Wait,
that was number 1.
That was
Oh yeah,
just
number 1 was easy.
Number one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Idea number 3. Once a month, you get to slap anyone in the company for any
Once a
reason.
month?
Once a month.
I didn't
thought a
realize
lot
this was
about
monthly. I
But
thought
it,
this was
it
an annual
expires at
thing.
the end of the month. I mean,
I
we can
don't get,
negotiate.
it's not like audible credits. I don't.
Nope.
I don't
Yeah, they don't roll over.
Can't
There's no
roll
rollover.
Yep, use it or lose
slaps.
I would probably offer that to my team. Like, you can slap me if you wanted to. I would probably not slap you.
You don't think people would be overall nicer to each other if they
No.
knew that? Hey,
That
if
being
I'm
slapped
if
was
I am a real jerk on that bridge call, and I'm telling you it's your problem when it's clearly my problem, so you can schedule time at my desk in front of my team.
Okay, in this world where there are no lawsuits
Yep.
as a result of this
Say
policy,
they sign a waiver to work at the company.
I think
is slapping your boss allowed?
I think it would have to be.
It would have to be.
For psychological safety.
Sure, is
Yeah, people would slap up, not down.
you slap up?
Yeah. I was going to
Is
say that
firing someone for slapping you allowed?
No.
You can't do that.
No.
Wow.
I was
Okay.
going to say the easy answer instead of just slapping people because of they're annoying is to fire them. But if it's your boss, then you can't really.
You can't fire your boss.
So
You can by quitting.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is
I
a
think,
much
I
more.
think slapbacks are allowed because it's going to happen. People will find a reason, but you can't. The same two people can't slap each other within 3 months.
No.
You
That's
can
a lot of
each.
rules. That's
You
a
can
lot.
each.
No,
get one
I
slap.
think so. Here's the thing: do I know? Okay, if I have to show up to this session,
Mhm.
I'm gonna get slapped.
Mhm.
Do I know who's slapping me in
No,
advance?
that's I think what makes it. If it's like executioner hood style,
Oh,
where the person getting
I
slapped
haven't
can't
thought
see
about
the
that
person
before.
slapping them.
You don't know?
Yeah,
Oh, in
That
your
would be
world,
better.
you don't even know.
that would be better.
Okay, so let's riff on that for a second. What if there's a scheduled time where you have to be there, and if someone's going to slap you, they then slap you. So you don't even know if you're getting slapped today or not. It's just
Yeah.
last Friday of the
Here's
month.
the thing: I'm holding my slap credit, and I'm showing up, and if somebody slaps me, it's bam, like
Well, so
immediately. I'm just saving my slap credit for whoever slaps me that moment.
No, so you got to be in the slapping chair.
you,
If we're doing this, there's a throne. You're going to sit on it,
Wow.
and then you're going to get slapped.
yeah, I don't think you sit. I don't think you let them sit. 'Cause
Stand.
I think that the slap could kind of knock them off their feet, and let them really know. But anyway, I don't know about scheduling it because I can be very reaction. I'm like, you could say something right now that makes me want to slap you. But if I have to wait until Friday, I might think
It's like a 5
Yeah.
day. It's
That
like a
was
5 day
sleep on.
waiting period.
It's
I
like,
think
that's the 24-hour rule for emails.
Yeah, I think it's like, no, I'm going to sit on this for a few days, and in a few days, if I really do need to slap them, then I know this isn't just reactionary. Because the
What?
risk,
So
the risk
wait a
to
minute.
what you're describing is you prematurely slap.
Well, yeah.
Premature slapulation affects many people.
Well, I don't have a lot of data on that.
Go with your gut.
Yeah, this is
It's a premeditated
favorite
slap,
episode
though,
ever.
I think is better.
Okay.
A slap of passion is probably what you want to avoid.
yeah,
True.
yeah. I have a lot more questions. Does this person getting slapped get to know why?
I think it's optional. I think
I think if I've done something to you to where you're ready to slap me, you're ready to cause me physical harm, I'm going to know what it was.
Huh?
but you don't know the person. You can't see your number. You don't
If
know.
you've done so many slappable things in a month that you don't know who's slapping you, it's time to look inward.
And what happened if multiple people want to slap you? So now you
Again.
get slapped, and then like you. Would it also be cool like if let's say 17 people wanted to slap you?
That'd be a slow month for me, I think.
It's one thing to say you got 17 slaps coming,
Mhm.
and it's another thing just to start. And there's one,
Yeah.
and there's two. Like you don't know
Yeah.
how long this
Like
is
I
gonna
think
go.
if you want
That's
this
a
to be
literal scene on airplane.
right, if you want this to be effective, though, you can't be masked. You have to see the line.
I think you
have to
wanna
know.
see your slapper coming.
Yeah, you can't just like get the slap and then think, "Is that
Yeah.
done? Am I done?"
I'm a bit of a coward. I wouldn't slap people if they could see me.
That's your choice. You don't have to.
Mm.
You don't have to.
You know, I
I'd try to
wouldn't.
do something really weird, like
I wouldn't tailgate people if I was in the same car. It's all that metal.
If you were in the you would. What do you wouldn't do? You wouldn't tailgate who?
Anyone.
You
I guess
tailgate people.
I wouldn't if I didn't have all that metal separating us.
Oh, that's true.
Or the ability to drive away
Yes.
instantly.
Because
Yes.
what happens when you tailgate somebody or honk at them or make a gesture, and then it
I mean,
opens
what has
opens up
Twitter-
two lanes, and now you're sitting next to each other, right? That's
I know. Oh, yeah, right. So
What-
can I
what-
tell you a story
what has-
real quick?
What has Twitter taught us? If you remove the risk of physical repercussions,
Yeah.
people do very irrational things
Yes.
and say very irrational things.
Yes.
I'm
Right.
just saying we reintroduce a little bit of, law of nature.
it's an idea.
It isn't. Well, it qualifies as an idea for sure.
Thank you.
It's an idea.
Yeah.
We're all the way back to
This is his
Seth
51st idea of the
51st.
day.
Yeah.
All right. So that's probably the end of it.